All right, let's talk about one of the most intense, complicated, and honestly, game-changing figures in all of Japanese history, Oda Nobunaga. This was a man of wild contradictions who basically dragged Japan kicking and screaming toward unification.
You hear this quote all the time, and wow, does it paint a picture? It sounds like a guy with absolutely zero patience for anything or anyone that won't fall in line. But is that really the whole story? Or is there more to it? So what was he? A bloodthirsty tyrant who torched temples and wiped out his enemies? Or was he a forward-thinking visionary who laid the groundwork for modern Japan? And what about this whole Demon King thing? That's the big puzzle we're going to try to piece together today.
First things first, to get a handle on Nobunaga, you have to understand the world he was born into. And let me tell you, it was a world of pure, non-stop chaos.
This era was called the Sengoku period, the Warring States. Imagine 100 years with no real government, just this violent free-for-all where powerful warlords, the daimyo, were constantly at each other's throats. The entire country was just one big, bloody battlefield.
And out of this mess, Nobunaga explodes onto the scene. He starts as just a minor lord, but then, at the Battle of Okehazana, he pulls off a miracle, crushing an army 10 times the size of his own. In just over 20 years, he goes from a nobody to the most powerful man in the country. And yeah, his methods were fast, they were effective, and a lot of the time, they were unbelievably brutal.
So how in the world did he do it? Well, the short answer is force. But it wasn't just brute force, it was smart, innovative, and it completely flipped the script on how samurai had been fighting for centuries.
The Battle of Nagashino is the perfect example of this. It's like the ultimate showdown, old versus new. On one side, you've got the Takeda clan's cavalry, the most feared samurai warriors in Japan. On the other, Nobunaga's army of peasant foot soldiers. The equalizer? Technology. 3,000. That's how many musketeers Nobunaga brought to the battle. Now, guns had been around in Japan for a bit, thanks to Portuguese traders, but nobody, and I mean nobody, had ever used them on a scale like this. It was a total game changer.
And here's the real genius. He didn't just hand out guns. No, he built a simple fence to stop the horses dead in their tracks. Then, he left gaps in the fence to funnel the charging samurai into perfect kill zones. And the masterstroke? He trained his guys to fire in waves, so while one rank was reloading, another was firing. It was a constant, unrelenting storm of bullets.
The result? Total devastation. The legendary Takeda cavalry was just shattered. And in one afternoon, the age of the noble samurai charge was over. Nobunaga had just rewritten the entire book on Japanese warfare.
Okay, so it's easy to just look at him as this ruthless military guy. But that's where the story starts to get so much more interesting. Winning battles was just step one for Nobunaga. His real vision was way, way bigger.
See, Nobunaga wasn't just tearing things down, he was building something new. He used his power to lay the foundations for a unified, modern Japan. He was a builder as much as he was a conqueror.
And his policies totally backed this up. His personal motto, stamped on his seal, was Tenkafubu, basically unify the realm by force. He got rid of tolls to boost free trade, created a fair tax system, and even standardized the currency. He was also fascinated by Western tech. I mean, these are the moves of someone building a nation, not just a warlord carving out territory.
So by 1582, Nobunaga is right on the edge of winning it all. The whole country is almost his. He's at the finish line, and then the story takes an absolutely shocking, violent turn.
Betrayal. Out of nowhere, one of his own top generals, Akechi Mitsuhide, turns on him. He surrounds the temple in Kyoto where Nobunaga is staying. Completely outnumbered, Nobunaga fights like a cornered lion before taking his own life as the temple burns down around him. His dream of a unified Japan literally went up in smoke.
So what about that infamous nickname, the Demon King? Well, here's the twist. He never called himself that. The records show it was an insult thrown at him by his rival, Takeda Shingen, probably because Nobunaga burned down some powerful Buddhist monasteries that were opposing him. Then, a Jesuit missionary named Louis Froisse heard it and likely played it up in his letters back to Europe to make Nobunaga sound like an enemy of religion. So the name that defined him? It was basically enemy propaganda. This old Japanese proverb just nails his legacy perfectly. It basically says Nobunaga did all the hard, messy, bloody work. He took all the scattered pieces of Japan and pounded them together into one mass. His successors, Hideyoshi and Ieyasu, were the ones who got to shape it, finish the job, and, enjoy the final product.
Which brings us right back to that first question. So who was Oda Nobunaga? Was he a monster? Or was that ruthlessness exactly what was needed to end a century of war? He was a destroyer for sure, but he was also a creator. You have to wonder, maybe he was the brutal, visionary leader that Japan desperately needed right at that very moment. What do you think?